Good morning and good afternoon to you all. I'm Jim Clark from the Waterford Institute of Technology in Ireland. As coordinator of the TrackStar project, I'm delighted you could join us today for our first external-facing launch meeting of the project. The project's full title sums up our goals quite well: Transatlantic Civil Society Dialogues with Key Policy Stakeholders. I would first like to acknowledge that the TrackStar project is co-funded by the European Union and is supported by the Foreign Policy Instruments Division within the delegation of the European Union to the United States, with the referred project reference number as shown here in the footer. The project officially started a few months ago, and the first months have been mainly internal meetings and workshops, including those with the delegation in relation to the setting up of our structure and for the policy dialogues. And we'll be presenting these today as we ask you to join us in our 2-year transatlantic effort to develop policy ideas that aspire to address global challenges tied to environmental, political, and economic conditions. The TrackStar project's vision is multifold. We want to help the participating organizations to build new relationships while strengthening any existing ties with other participants. And we want to create a community and a process in which participants can develop and refine viable policy innovations to address ongoing and emerging environmental, political, and economic challenges. And we are delighted today to have a welcome address by the Deputy Head of the Delegation of the European Union to the United States, Mr. Michael Curtis. Indeed, we're very privileged to have Michael with us today, as he has a long career working within the European institutions, mainly on foreign policy and external relations, trade, development, and humanitarian issues, and transatlantic relationships. As all projects must ensure our objectives match the objectives given in our call for proposals in our particular Lot 2 on transatlantic civil society dialogues. The objectives are to stimulate dialogue and cooperation between NGOs, associations, and interest groups, reflecting a wide range of constituencies in the EU and the US, to increase the understanding of joint transatlantic efforts among relevant stakeholders in the EU and the US, and to improve the feedback loop between policymakers and civil society actors in the EU and the US. In terms of who facilitates the project activities, this is a joint EU and US initiative, with the principal location being in the United States, with 3 partners who will facilitate the dialogues between May 2021 and December 2022. The Waterford Institute of Technology is the coordinating partner. We are a European public university in Waterford, Ireland. James Madison University is a US public university in Harrisonburg, Virginia. And the Lars Institute is a US think tank in San Diego, California. My colleagues, Dan Caprio and Charles Blake, will now bring you through the more detailed description of our project objectives, which will highlight the importance of your roles within the project. Thank you, Dan.
And thank you, Jim. I'm Dan Caprio, Senior Fellow at the Lars Institute. And thank you so much for joining us today. We're glad you're here. I'm enthusiastic about this project and excited to get started. So let's talk for a minute about the 7 working groups and what the project is going to address. So we have 7 different working groups, as you can see. So the depth and breadth of issues in the transatlantic relationships, circular economy and biodiversity, climate change, energy, democracy and technology, digital economy, which I'm honored to lead that working group, regulatory cooperation, along with trade and investment. The transatlantic relationship is the most important relationship in the world. And the EU and the US are vital members of the global community. Each of us has a visible impact on environmental conditions, the pursuit of democracy and human rights, and economic conditions. Most importantly, as we know through the years and our long history, the EU and the US have many shared values and shared interests in a more prosperous, sustainable, and peaceful world. The EU and the US can build on a shared history of successful cooperation in many, many policy areas. Civil society organizations, including trade associations, think tanks, and academia in Europe and the US, have demonstrated a capacity to innovate regarding both policy ideas and strategies. So it's now my pleasure to turn this over to my colleague, Chris Blake at James Madison University.
Thank you so much, Dan. I'm here on behalf of my role within this presentation to talk a little bit about how we will proceed with regard to stimulating policy dialogues. And here I want to present an overview of the schedule. If you're viewing this presentation because you're an invited participant in this, these are the dates in which there will be synchronous working group meetings over the length of the project. And what I most want to convey here is the purposes of how we see this unfolding, where here during 2021, we want to focus on bringing the convoked civil society organizations together to talk through their issue areas and to develop the agenda for 2022, in which they will be developing specific policy recommendations with regard to aspects of that policy space that they find the most germane for efforts at improving policy feedback with various policymakers in Europe and in the United States. At the end of each of the years, as you can see, there is envisioned a plenary session. We don't know yet, frankly, whether the first plenary will be in person or it will be virtual. We anticipate very much that the second plenary will be in person. Both of those plenaries are going to be in Washington, D.C., and the vision of this project is that it will be an opportunity for people to interact with policymakers and to interact also with members of the other working groups beyond the work that the groups do synchronously and asynchronously throughout each year. The biggest thing perhaps to convey in terms of how we will proceed in facilitating these dialogues is to start off by thinking about what the working groups are not. The working groups are not functioning as a government commission might or an expert group might, in which we are convening the groups to explore an issue space and write one single lengthy unified report. Instead, we want the groups to come together and bring their energy and their expertise with regard to their issue domain in the service of collaboration, in the service of identifying specific issues in which they believe that they are developing viable policy solutions that will help improve societal conditions on both sides of the Atlantic and potentially with regard to some of the ideas more globally. And so we want to offer up this project as an opportunity for the participating civil society organizations to interact with one another, to pick the issues that they want to work on, and to interact over the evolution of the project with relevant policymakers in those spaces, both synchronously, as I mentioned previously, at the plenary sessions, but also in various ways asynchronously between the different working group meetings. And in turn, this project is going to provide an additional framework for communicating those policy ideas to relevant members of the various policy communities, both through the plenary sessions, but also through a yearbook that will be generated, info sheets that will be generated about the various different ideas. And so in this sense, you can see over the arc of this particular slide that it's actually our project team that's going to compile the record of what these different activities produced, and we want to give you a space in which to innovate. So if you're watching this presentation because your organization has been invited to participate in Project TrackStar, please join in. We think and know that this will be a space in which ideas will be welcomed, and that it will be a space in which we look forward to the policy ideas that will emerge. We look forward to the possibility also for cross-pollination across the working groups when they identify shared areas of concern. If you have any questions about the project, please reach out to us by email. If you're interested in the project more broadly, beyond a specific working group or with regard to a specific working group, visit us at our website and follow the project and its evolution on Twitter at TrackStar Europe. On behalf of everyone on the team here at Project TrackStar, we're excited about the possibilities here for developing new policy ideas and strengthening and reimagining the transatlantic relationship. Thank you for watching this presentation, and we welcome your energy and your ideas in this project.